But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature, and the breath of all mankind. Job 12:7-10. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Kicking Feet Outdoors. Today, I'm going to be discussing deer season pack list essentials, as well as some do's and don'ts of the game. Okay, so starting off with my pack this year, I'm actually doing things a little bit different. In the years past, I've always used your typical little camouflage packs that you get from like Walmart or Rural King or whatever. And since I have started self-filming my hunts, I have come to the conclusion that there is just not enough room in those little packs. So this year, I'm going to be using my hiking pack that I bought up in Alaska. Plenty of pockets, plenty of places for like cups or thermoses or whatever. Obviously, the waist cinch, and just a good bag overall. And I think this is really going to help this year, fitting everything that I need in there, especially on days I take all day rut hunts. So we'll see how that goes this year. But moving on, we'll just start with some of the basics here. So obviously, I'm more of talking about like archery over gun hunting. And so with that being said, something that's super important in my opinion is always to have an extra release in your pack. I'm notorious for dropping things from my stand. So really just try to have like an extra release, but I've got my nice thumb activated release. I prefer the thumb activated releases. But anyways, I've got my nice release, and then I've got a cheap little release here that I bought at Walmart for like $5. So definitely always a good idea to keep extra releases in your pack, as well as other extra items that we'll get into later. So continuing on with some of the basics, super important to keep some TP in your bag. I know that sounds kind of silly. You gotta go. Yeah, super important to always have some TP in there. You never know what you're gonna need it for. It also works great if you're trying to wipe sweat off, or if your face paint's running, if you're wearing face paint. So, and as well as the TP, also like something I always have in my pack, I have an extra bottle. Now I know this is a nice bottle, but I bought it really cheap, so I've given it this purpose. I'm not here to be gross, but you want something that you can pee in. There is nothing worse than getting up in your stand, especially if you're doing an all-day rut sit, and you have to go, and then you have to get down and either go in the woods and leave your scent around, or get out and go somewhere else. There's nothing worse than spooking deer. To eliminate that, just take an extra bottle with you that's empty. If you've got the space in the room, do what you have to do. So along with that bottle, I also always have my water bottle. Super important to always stay hydrated and whatnot. Just keep an extra water bottle in there so you have something to drink. And this Stanley thermos, obviously it's camo. I love this thing, and this has been a lifesaver during some all-day sits. And during the real cold, I'll pack some coffee in here, or you could do hot chocolate or whatever. But super important. There's nothing worse than being cold up in your stand or in your blind, and just a little boost of energy there to kind of warm you up and make you feel good. Really, definitely a good thing. Okay, so now just moving from my left to right here, roof umbrella for your tree. It screws into the tree. In the years past, I have let rain determine whether I'm hunting or not, and this year I'm not about to do that. Also, if you're self-filming your hunts, this eliminates the need for waterproof cases or covers for your camera gear. I'm going to use this year and stay dry. I hope it really works well. Something new I'm going to do this year as well, but I think is just as important here, I'm going to be packing a Right in the Rain, or maybe even my little Mossy Oak notebook here, or both of them. But something I'm going to really try hard to do every sit this year is to mark down like the temperature, wind direction, wind speed, etc. That way, and log how many deer I've seen, or if I haven't seen deer, That way I can look back in it in the next few years and try to figure out, okay, well, this was a good spot because this happened, or this was a good time to hunt due to this temperature, whatever. Definitely a good thing to be able to have something to reflect on as you grow within your hunting career. Okay, and something I always carry along with me in my pack is a little handsaw and some clippers. You never know when you get up, you hang your stand, a month or two in advance, and then you get up into your stand, and what do you know, there's a new limb there, or there's a limb that's fallen in a storm, or you decide that day that you're going to hunt off the ground in a new little section that you haven't cleared out. Well, you need these on hand. That way you can clear some brush and make do with what you got. Definitely important to always have those in your pack. This is just some flagging. I always carry flagging with me. That way, in an evening sit, I shoot a deer and it's getting dark and I don't have, flashlights with me or anything else. This is super good to have with you. That way you can just mark where you mark your first blood, or mark where the deer was standing when you shot. That way you can go back, collect your thoughts, regroup, and then come back, and you have somewhere to start from. Super important to always have this. And then I've always got a bottle of no scent spray with me, or this brand of scent killer, but I always carry this with me. You never know. Definitely during the early parts of deer season when it's so hot and you get sweaty as you're getting into your stand, and there's nothing better than having this just to kind of refresh yourself with no scent, eliminate that scent, so then you're ready to continue on in your hunt, because there's nothing worse than being up there and being sweaty. You're letting off odor. You're teaching and educating the deer. They know what to look for and smell for, so definitely something really good to always have on hand. And moving on from that, something that I've been using for a long time now is this nose jammer spray. This is great. This is what I always spray on my boots right as I'm going out to my hunt. That way I eliminate any scent on my boots. In the years past, I've used coyote pee or red fox urine, and I've literally seen deer come across the trail that I walked in, and they smell that pee and they'll go a different direction. And I think, with them being a predator, just not something that's quite reliable anymore. So this nose jammer, it's great. It completely eliminates your scent, as well as, if you're going to put up one of these scent bombs, this is always something good to have if you've got real shifty wind. You just pull up on that little piece there and hang that on your little limb. But if it's not quite rut, you're not wanting to use deer pee, that nose jammer really works great for that and just helping with any shifting winds. And speaking of deer urine, I always carry a bottle of Tinks with me. This is the Tinks #69 doe and rut. So I always keep this in my pack, especially during the rut. Obviously, another great deterrent to put up at, and hang. That way the deer can smell it or whatever. Moving on from that piece there, though, I've got some bug spray. Now, I've actually found some Realtree brand odorless bug sprays on Amazon that I'm going to be purchasing this year. But definitely always a good thing to have on hand, especially in the early season when the bugs are still out, mosquitoes, gnats, whatever. You want some bug spray to keep the bugs off of you. And I've got a couple different wind indicators here. These are great. Obviously, you pop the top and blow that powder up, and you'll be able to see which way the wind's coming from. Also, something really good to carry as well is if you have some milkweed seed pods, you can take that little bit of fluff in there, and that'll really travel down with the wind and tell you what's going on for a while. So that's even better than these two bits, but I always have something like that on hand. That way, if the wind's shifting, I know what's going on, and you can move along with that. Next up, talking about some calls. Not so important in early season, more for rut, but I've got a Night and Hail grunt tube here, and this is one of my favorite ones just because it has more of a deep and raspier sound to it. So really good call. Been using it for a long time, but you definitely always want to have something like that with you during the rut. You know, a couple little grunts will really grab a buck's attention sometimes, and that can help. As well as, you know, your little bleating can here. So this, I just started using this last year. It's the Primos great big can, but it sounds really good. Obviously sounds like a doe and estrus, and pairing that with your grunt calls sometimes can really pull a buck, you know, if he's not quite working with you. So next up here, tooless wipes. I can't stress enough how important these are to have. These are obviously a couple different brands. The Grind Boss is really good because it's kind of got a rough side to it, so really good for taking off face paint, but Scent-Away is just as good. Anyways, there's nothing worse than getting up in your stand, especially in the early season. You know, you're hot, you're sweaty, and you've got sweat pouring down yourself. Nothing better than taking one of those wipes and hitting your neck, going over your hair, just eliminating all those oils and unessential odors off your body, just refreshing yourself before you continue on into your hunt. So can't stress enough how important it is to have some wipes with you. And important for the rut here, but this is a drag rag, or that's what I call it. I call it a drag. It's a drag. You know, obviously you take this fuzzy piece, you spray it with deer urine, you clip this piece on there and, you know, connect it to your waist. And during the rut, you can mimic a doe and estrus that has walked a certain trail. So that way she comes up and comes by your hunting location for your sit. So definitely a really good thing to have during the rut, not necessarily all the time. Something that I used to use all the time in the past, but I've kind of gotten away from, is camo face paint. But if you're the kind that likes to use face paint, definitely always a good thing to keep it in your pack. That way, if you've gotten to your stand in the early season, you've sweated off your face paint, you can freshen everything up. And or, you know, if you choose not to put on face paint before you leave, you get to your spot and then now you're able to apply your face paint. So definitely something good to have in your pack, just on hand. Or even, you know, if you're the kind that likes to wear face nets like I do, you know, if you're clumsy, you drop your face net from your stand. Well, now you've got face paint and you've got a backup plan. Okay, so next up is my binoculars and this little mini spotting scope. Obviously, you definitely don't really want a cheap pair of binoculars, so take the time, take the money, and get you a good pair of binoculars. That way, especially if you're hunting from the other side of a crop field, and that way you can actually see what's around. But I also really do like this mini spotting scope, you know, because it's not as big and bulky as my binoculars here. Same things, it like zooms in and you can focus it. So I think I got this off of Amazon for less than 20 bucks years ago. So definitely check out something like this. With the calls, something that I always keep with me is a little, you know, jackrabbit call for coyotes. Depending on what part of the world you're at, you know, here in the Midwest, our biggest predator is the coyote. So something I always keep in here is my little predator call. That way, if it seems like I'm not going to see any deer, and lo and behold, I see a coyote, at least I can hit that and take out a fawn predator. Now, speaking of rattling antlers, so I use these. So in the years past, I've used these Flex Tone rattling set. They are really nice. I do like them, and obviously this is something you want to carry during the rut. You can really pull bucks. If you're not seeing any deer, there's nothing better than hitting on the horns, and you know, usually you can pull a buck out of a distant place, coming to seek a fight or coming to see what's going on and find that hot doe. So, but this year I'm actually going to be taking some old deer antlers and some rawhide string and making my own rattling sets this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. So definitely look out for that in this hunting season's videos. Something super important for your all-day rut sits, I always keep sunglasses on hand. Obviously they're camo, but if you're sitting in your stand, obviously the sun's gonna change throughout your day, and there's nothing worse than getting a headache because you're constantly squinting and looking into the sun. Okay, next up is some of these reflective outdoor products, little stickers here. I picked these up from Walmart years ago, but I put these on all my arrows and some of my game cameras, and I can't stress enough how important they are, only because they're reflective. You know, if you're out, if you're not using the nocks that light up, at least if you've shot a deer, these will reflect as you're shining your flashlight on them. So it's super important to have, super important to apply on your products. So up next, speaking about some of my self-film gear that I'm going to be using this year. Obviously this doesn't show much, but this is one of my camera mounts. This is a Ridge Hunter brand, and obviously it just sits on the tree. You take your ratchet and go around the tree, and you can cinch it down that way and then run your camera off of it. So I carry 2 of these, and it's also a really good idea to have an extra ratchet on hand. Like I mentioned earlier, that last year I actually had one of my ratchets go bad and I had to cut it. So always a good thing to have an extra ratchet in there. You know, if you drop one or one breaks, you can at least continue on with your filming for the night. And this year I'm going to be using 2 camcorders, one for a point of view and one for the hunt itself, as well as my Tacticam will be on my bow this year. So moving on into some clothing items, along with my Kicking Feet Outdoors cap here. Always something good to have in your pack. So typically I wear this cap out as I'm getting to my hunting location for the evening, and usually when I get to my stand, I'll respray it, make sure it's good to go. And you know, even though it's usually hot during the beginning of the season, I usually have a beanie in my pack. Hopefully you know as well as I do that even during those hot months in the beginning of the season, when that temperature drops, it drops, and it is cold in the evenings, especially if you're up in your deer stand. And you know, it's super important to have one of these beanies in there. That way you can keep warm. And as well as, I always have this in my pack. This is the most recent face net I've been wearing, and it's Mossy Oak brand. I picked it up at Walmart, and I like it a lot because it's got this netting in the front, and that way, you know, it goes over your nose. You can breathe a little better and whatnot. And you know, to me personally, I think it's super important to keep your neck and your face as covered as possible, as well as your hands. When it comes to your head, the hat that you're wearing, personally, I think it should probably be mostly camo. Definitely no colors that the deer can see. Solid colors deer can see better. So try to get something that really breaks up your profile. So this is the pair of gloves that I like to be wearing. They're fingerless gloves. Today's day and age, we all have our cell phones with us. Nothing worse than pulling out your phone and you've got to take your glove off with your teeth or something. So you can eliminate that whole thing by just wearing some fingerless gloves. As you know, that way you're not making so much movement. The deer don't see you, because you want to be as still as possible, obviously. Continuing on here, in the beginning of deer season, I still take a coat with me, or this is kind of a light jacket, but super important because like I mentioned earlier, even if it is warm during the beginning of the season, once that sun goes down in the evenings, it does still get a little chilly. And so last year was my first hunting season back, and remember dressing really lightly for my first hunt last year. It was super hot, but I took a jacket with me as well as that beanie, and I'm so glad I did, because it did get pretty cooled down that evening. Just something else is super important. You know, if you've got rain in your forecast or it's spotty, it gets you a good pair of frog togs. I know I don't like wearing frog togs as much, only because they're that plasticky material, and they definitely seem to make like a lot more noise. But you don't want to be wet in the stand, and you don't want to ruin your hunt and not hunt because it's raining. So definitely pack your frog togs, pack you a rain jacket, something that's going to keep you dry. And something that I did not wear very many times last year was my hunter safety system here, little harness. So this came with my climber when I bought it. But anyways, I can promise you that I will be wearing this on every hunt when I'm in a stand this year. I can't stress enough how important safety is. There has been too many accidents from people falling out of their stands because they're not wearing these, and this is super simple. You know, it's got the strap that comes up around the neck, and you know, you can just hold it up, put your jacket on, and you don't even know what's on your body. So super important. And yeah, again, I will be wearing this every hunt this year, and if I'm in the stand. So I know I've talked a lot about early season deer hunting, but anyways, a couple different items that are super important come your colder months would be some boot gaiters. These don't really work very well if you're wearing like a muck boot type material, but if you're just wearing your lace-up boots, these are super good, because especially if there's a heavy dew on the ground or heavy frost or snow, these cover the front of your boots, keeps the snow off. That way you're not getting wet feet, and as well they just really keep your legs kind of warm. So super important to have some boot gaiters. And speaking of boots, so I usually wear like a waterproof type boot, but once it gets to the colder months, some really well insulated boots will do you well. I think these are 1200 grain, so definitely get like a good pair of boots, something good for walking if you're going the distance. And yeah, super important to have some good insulated boots, because there's nothing worse than cold feet. Something I haven't discussed yet, but the scent blender, something I bought last year, and I am so thankful I bought it. I think when I bought it, it ran around $100 on Amazon. So this is something I'm definitely going to be utilizing a lot this year. Obviously, it comes with your blender piece, and you charge that because it's got this little like USB piece that you can charge it with, as well as it comes with your scent blender bottle, which has this filter on it. And so all you do is you fill your bottle with water, you know, look at your surrounding area that you're going to be hunting, find out what's around. You know, say it's some honeysuckle leaves and twigs, put it in there, put it on this, you blend it up, bam, you have your own no scent spray, something to blend you in with the background, with your environment. And I'm going to be utilizing this a lot this year because this thing is so cool. Okay, so something else that I haven't really talked about yet. So I'm a nicotine fiend, if you will. I prefer Zen pouches nowadays. You know, I know, like, I used to dip in the past, and when it comes to dipping and you're in the stand, or, you know, smoking, obviously both of those put up scent, and that scares the deer. You know, so something that I have found that has been a good alternative is the Zen pouches. Now, obviously this is the coffee flavor, so this is not what I'm after, but their chill or smooth flavor is very good, because it's tasteless. You know, it's obviously not giving off any scent, as well as when you put one of those things in, you can swallow spit. You don't have to spit around, take your net off, like move around or whatever. So Zen, if you want to sponsor me, please do, and make a camouflage can, because that'd be awesome. So last but not least, this is what I call my field bag. I keep this handy in my vehicle or with my hunting stuff if I'm hunting at my mom and dad's farm. Super important to have. It's just really all it is a go bag if you've killed a deer. So super important to have all this handy for field dressing and whatnot. I've got zip ties in here, and obviously my tag will be in here, something that I can put on the deer, as well as some good gloves, and I've got some knives. Headlamp is something really good to have in your go bag here, obviously, so you don't have to hold it while you're trying to gut your deer. But also, this has a blue light on it, which reflects the blood when you're blood trailing a deer. And I've got some extra like Ziplocs in there, and Band-Aids, and a bone saw, extra flashlights, and a drag. So definitely something really good to have on hand all the time. That way, you've killed a deer, you're ready to go. So, anyways, this is going to be a wrap. Deer season pack essentials. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment any other things that I may have missed that you think are essential for deer season pack list might be something that I include in this year, and that'd be really cool. So I'll take any feedback that you can give, and yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button and share with your friends. Thanks for watching. Stick with it.